So, you've been assigned to teach public speaking. It's not essay writing, and it's not theater. We want to make the experience as beneficial for our students as possible. We want them to leave our classroom empowered, inspired, and confident in their skill sets. But who has the time to read research and go to workshops? That's where I come in. My name is Julian, and you're listening to the Public Speaking Educators Forum. This podcast is for educators who teach public speaking. Each week, you'll hear from a fellow instructor who has an interesting trick to the trade to share with you. We are speaking up so that you can help your students to speak up too. Tonight on the forum, we'll be speaking with Dr. Karin Becker, who is the Director of Reading, Learning, and Communications at the United States Air Force Academy in Colorado. In this role, Dr. Becker is involved with curriculum development for both speaking and writing courses for cadets, as well as the development of a new public speaking lab. Dr. Becker, welcome to the forum.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for giving us your time, especially as we are approaching midterms.
Yes.
So what motivated the development of a public speaking lab at the Air Force Academy?
Yeah, well, there was a recent change in the curriculum. So the public speaking class is no longer an offering, yet there is a very strong institutional alignment and an outcome of oral communication. So all core classes must somehow adopt the clear communication proficiencies, which includes oral and written communication. So to kind of support that outcome without a direct curricular input, the idea of a public speaking lab was a tool to bridge that gap.
I imagine getting institutional buy-in is not an easy process, especially for a project as large as putting together a lab. So if I were to just ask you kind of generally, how does someone in your position establishing a new resource facility gain the support of faculty and students?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's a lot of vision casting. It's a lot of persistence, and it's a lot of relationship building. So once I met with individual faculty and administrators and identified there is this gap in the curriculum, and yet there is an overarching value. And everyone agreed that oral communication is important, and specifically within the context of the Air Force Academy, oral communication has a premium because we're not just helping graduates, but officers of character. And so everyone from the faculty as well as the military leaders in the cadet wing said, yes, we want our officers to be able to be effective, clear, confident communicators. So it wasn't hard to create that buy-in because everyone said, yes, this is a value. And then again, a communication audit identified that there are these outcomes that we all agree on, and there are classes that incorporate presentations, but we're not giving the cadets the skill set to improve on that skill. And so it was received very well. And then in additionally to just the classroom concept of oral communication, there's a lot of different diverse contexts. So it's not just the individual or group presentations, but additionally a select few of our cadets will go on to graduate school. And so they have to prepare for those selective, competitive interviews. And so having the ability to have a space to practice, to have a specialist provide targeted feedback is a great asset. There's also a lot of scholarships to which the cadets apply. We've had a number of Rhodes Scholars in the past and Stamp Scholars. So again, that opportunity to get practice, to revise, to see oneself. We do audio videotaping, and so cadets will get an MP4 file so they can go back and review the awkwardness of seeing them present, what their nonverbals look like. And then there's also professional briefings, and so they will have opportunities to present to military leaders, and succinctness is so valued. So refining and practicing, because when you get 2 minutes, it is 2 minutes. So there's all of these needs, but the overarching value made getting buy-in pretty easy.
Well, that's really good to hear, because I know when we're presented with a new way of doing things or presented with a new opportunity, particularly one that costs money, there can be some pushback or some apprehension on the part of our colleagues. And of course, students having to do something new and different is not always received favorably as well. Yes,
well, this did catch the ears of a donor, so it is donor funded. So it's only to the gain of faculty because it costs them nothing. It's an additional curricular resource. So it's a self-sustained support center.
Well, that's wonderful. Now, you had mentioned that there is no one public speaking course at this point. So tell me about how you plan to integrate this lab into the broader curriculum.
Yeah, so it is funded on a limited basis. So we have a part-time public speaking specialist. So it's a hard line to balance in terms of what we can offer and offer well with limited resources. And so how do you manage to bite off something that you are actually going to be successful in doing without casting or promising too much? And so what I did is, in that mind of not trying to overextend, I looked at all of the curriculum handbook courses and saw which ones are integrating oral communication presentation skills into their classes already. And so that was my first target. Is then I reached out to those instructors and said, I understand that this is something that you're already doing, and here's a new resource to which we could partner with or that your cadets could use. So it was a very small, targeted outreach. From there, some departments, some faculty were really receptive and said, we would love to include you. And one department in particular said, not only do we want to use you, we want to embed you, the services of our public speaking specialist, into our class. And so some guest lectures. We want the specialist to come in and comment on the feedback, on the presentations. We would like assistance with rubric development, how to assess oral communication. So that was all a really great partnership so that we could be a part of the curriculum, be part of the syllabus from day one. Additionally, another department wanted to go about it a little bit differently and say, this sounds like a really good research project. So in the vein of scholarship of teaching and learning, what's the efficacy of having a public speaking specialist available to us? And so some sections of this, it's a biology class, use the public speaking specialist and some don't. And so this is a project in the works to kind of look at the value, the efficacy of opportunities to have revision, opportunities to get feedback, and then implement that feedback in future presentations. And then another aspect is outside the classroom, kind of recreationally, that we want to provide a space for cadets to practice oral communication. And especially in the COVID and post-COVID era, getting people to talk face-to-face, we're finding more anxiety about that. So trying to improve those oral communication skills in a non-threatening way. So kind of like a Toastmasters, but not quite that structured. Opportunities for students to come have impromptu speeches to improve their oral communication, to think about applied contexts, whether it's special occasion speeches like weddings, giving toasts, interpersonal relationships, conflict, negotiations, those types of things, as well as just kind of fun role playing. So that's another pitch, I guess, or another way that the public speaking lab is showing its relevance. There is a very successful forensics team at the Air Force, and this is kind of the antidote to that. So not competitive, not debate style. So again, trying to find ways to add value and relevance.
Well, it sounds like this is definitely a welcome fit into your overall program. And I have to say, in the beginning, when you mentioned that there is no longer a specific course in public speaking, I was thinking, how is this going to fit into everything? But it sounds like it's fitting in seamlessly, and probably even more so than you were originally expecting.
Yes. Yeah, so demand has exceeded supply. So we're now trying to have our public speaking specialist go full-time because it's been so successful.
Well, that is definitely a great accomplishment, especially so early on, I'm assuming. This is a fairly new initiative, correct?
It's 1 year old, yeah. So we just launched the spring of 2020. So we haven't even met our 1 year anniversary yet.
Well, bravo to all of you. So
thank you. Yeah, it's been really fun. It's provided a lot of new energy. And again, the need or the desire for this space, cadets are not getting this type of instruction or feedback elsewhere. So they really appreciate it.
Well, that's great to hear. I was actually going to ask you, my next question was, what other services will be offered to students? I mean, I imagine being in its first year, you're probably rolling things out, in a sort of step-by-step, and also because we're working remotely, you're probably not able to do absolutely everything that was envisioned. So what is ultimately the next step or the big picture with this as far as student support?
Yeah, so we are still offering services in a remote setting. So we have been able to do in person just starting like a month ago. So we were remote mostly last semester. So cadets could still make appointments with our public speaking specialist and hold those over Teams. But now we're able to go back in person. So that's been great. And when it is in person, one of the benefits is that we have some audiovisual equipment and some microphones so cadets can get mic'd up. We have no podium, so there's nothing to hide behind. And then we start recording, and then we have a monitor to play it back. And then sit down and review strengths and weaknesses is a really valuable opportunity. So that's great. Another thing is the public speaking lab has kind of turned into our conference room. And so when we are doing some of the interviews for graduate placements or scholarships, using the audiovisual equipment, we can put Skype calls in or facilitate Zoom calls and have nice sound quality and audio quality. So that's been helpful as well.
Well, it's good to see that other areas of the institution are benefiting from this facility and these programs as well.
Yeah, we just heard some success stories from a couple of different scholarship recipients, and they attributed a lot of their confidence in success or their level of preparedness from using the public speaking lab. That ability to get that targeted feedback and run through different scenarios or different questions that might be posed, and then how do they respond, really gave them that level of preparation and that confidence that made a difference.
That's wonderful feedback. And you haven't even made the 1 year mark, which is incredible that you're already getting this kind of feedback from students.
We're starting to we're starting to build our speaker success wall. So we just bought some 8x10 frames.
That will be quite an honor to be one of the first to hang on that wall.
Yeah.
So I understand that this lab will double as a service for students and faculty, in that there are some professional development programs that you'll be offering through the lab. I know you mentioned research a little while ago. So if you tell us a little bit about some of the professional development that's more geared toward faculty.
Yeah, well, again, the Air Force Academy is kind of a unique context compared to civilian institutions in that military faculty will often rotate every 3 years. And so they come in for a teaching assignment for a 3-year position, and they come from all different career fields or experiences, and then they may be teaching a class which has an oral presentation component. And so trying to support them as faculty is part of the mission as well. So again, we can talk about, hey, let's video record faculty in the classroom for a teaching tool for them. How are they moving in the classroom? How do they sound? In one instance, we found that an instructor was favoring one side of the classroom more than the other. So just looking at situational awareness. As I said before, rubric development is a common request. I don't know how to assign oral presentation, how to assess it. I don't know what to look at. And these are common among faculty across the board. Oftentimes the feedback, as you know, centers on content. And so having someone else's set of eyes or guidance to say, content is strong, now let's look at organization. Let's look at rapport with audience. Let's look at the nonverbals and the delivery. Oh, okay, I hadn't thought about those things. So just little guidance, things like that, gives them some teaching tools to think about kind of the holistic idea of presenting. Some visuals, right? How are they integrating visuals so they're not reading off of a PowerPoint? Or how are they translating oral communication into visual multimedia usage? And then other things, we have a public speaking stream channel. So we are making a bunch of videos, kind of a repository that any instructor could use in the classroom. So it's the public speaking channel is available to any member of the faculty. And so if you're assigning a presentation and you're not quite sure, here's a video on organizational patterns. Another one might have to do with neutralizing nervousness, persuasive strategies. So we're trying to build this repository that as faculty, oh, okay, here's a 4-minute video I can include in my class in this lesson. And, you know, again, because we don't have the resources to do every single classroom visit.
Sounds like you are offering a lot of different opportunities and resources, and it definitely sounds like you're making excellent use of technology, which, you know, as we've noticed over the past year, has worked, and it also hasn't worked, depending on who you talk to. So I applaud you for that as well. So I guess if we were to kind of start wrapping this up here, what has been the overall response to this, either from the students' point of view, from the vantage point of faculty or administration? And obviously you mentioned that there are some outside stakeholders that have been part of this. What has the response been overall?
Overwhelmingly positive. I mean, there's not much negative to say, again, because we're all contributing to the overall mission. And that's one thing that is just so unifying about the context of the Air Force Academy, and that oral communication is such a visible manifestation of that. So this is something that everyone can get behind and support. we have had specific students say, the thing that really helped me the most was going to the public speaking lab. It gave me the confidence, or it gave me new ideas for an opening gambit or something like that. So we're starting to gather some of these testimonials just so we have them, again, that we can showcase as we're continuing to try to expand our services. Marketing is part of the job, so we're always trying to document, what have we done and what are our success stories. So our speaker wall, our testimonials, we made an impact video just to show what have we done. And so we're gathering these little clips so that we can showcase them to prospective students, to current faculty, to incoming faculty, kind of an onboarding exercise as well.
Well, I'm thrilled to hear that the response has been so positive from everyone. It sounds like you're really enjoying what you're doing with this lab. I can hear it in your voice, just how excited you are, which is great.
Probably amped up on coffee, too.
that makes two of us. And I think that it's wonderful that the Air Force Academy has adopted such a model where it's a student resource, but it's also a faculty resource. And I hope that other institutions, people who are listening to this from other institutions, can follow suit, that it can be done pretty simply. And in less than a year, the writing is on the wall of the benefits. I mean, at least that's what it's sounding like. So like I say, my hat off to you and to your colleagues for pulling this off during a pandemic year. And congratulations on all of your successes so far.
Well, thank you so much. Thanks for your time and interest, and it's been a pleasure.
Well, this brings us to the end of yet another episode. Dr. Becker, thank you so much for taking time to share the wonderful work you're doing at the Air Force Academy, and thank you all for taking the time to listen to the Public Speaking Educators Forum. Be sure to subscribe to our podcast on Spotify and audible.com. Follow us on Twitter at PSEF Podcast, and be sure to tune in again real soon.